Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, I'm honoured to be joined by Lena Elkhatib, founder of Avid Intimacy, a Chicago-based clinical practice helping individuals and couples deepen emotional and sexual connections. Lena is a licensed marriage and family therapist and an AASECT certified sex therapist who works with clients around relationship conflict, intimacy blocks, mismatched desires, sexual shame recovery, non-monogamy, kinks, exploration, trauma healing, and much, much more. Through compassionate, evidence-based therapy, Lena helps people rewrite the story that holds them back from authentic connection. Lena, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me today.
So glad to be here.
Pleasure. I'm glad to have you here as well. And I'm excited to dive in and learn more about your journey. So, typically with all of my guests, I do actually like to start at the beginning. So if you don't mind taking me back to what it was that you was doing before you started up Avid Intimacy, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah. I was actually working in an entirely different field. I was working in advertising on the creative end of things for about 14 years.
Oh,
And for a while, I loved it. I was working with clients I loved at an agency I really liked and just doing really cool work. And it was a very fast-paced, deadline-driven, high-pressure environment, which was fun when I was 24. I didn't mind staying up till 3 a.m. working on a pitch because I wanted to win the pitch. But after a while, that excitement started to fade, and what it was doing to me, the toll it was taking on my mental health, on my relationships, suddenly just didn't seem right anymore. And I
mm,
had a moment at my engagement party when I was exhausted and just wanted it to end because I had stayed up really late the night before trying to meet a deadline for a cookie company. And that's the moment when I knew I needed to change courses. It just wasn't worth it anymore. That was happening alongside a pretty large life change for me in that I was getting married, I was becoming a stepmother, and just entering into a whole new life stage where I was starting to pay attention to relationships. What makes them work? What are the ones that I could look at as models for a thriving relationship? And what I was seeing around me was scary. I was looking around and I was seeing that people weren't doing okay. Relationships weren't thriving. We had systems that were keeping us in a constant state of stress. We had a lack of education around what makes relationships work. We have a really cultural deprioritization of play and joy and leisure. And
mm.
that's not even talking about the cultural and religious shame that many of us have lived with. So, in short, it became very clear to me that when it came to intimate relationships, we were set up to fail. And that's when I knew I wanted to go into relationship therapy. So I went back to grad school, studied couple and family therapy, loving the program. And what do I find out while I'm in the program? That you can actually become a couples therapist, specializing in relationships. You can actually become any kind of therapist without having to take a single required course on sex. And that just blew my mind. Beyond the basic human sexuality course, the entire mental health industry was basically inadvertently saying sexuality doesn't matter.
Mm.
And that's when it clicked for me that I wanted to become specifically a relationship and sex therapist. It was kind of an aha moment for me, one of those kind of, you know, all the
Yeah.
pieces came together and I just knew that that was, as cliche as it sounds, it was a calling. So I finished my program, worked at a few practices. From there, I launched Avid Intimacy as a solo practice. And since then, we have grown into a group practice of now 13 highly specialized relationship and sex therapists. And we were really on a mission to help people live a more turned on life because that's what people deserve.
Love that. And interestingly, that obviously the sex part or the connection, because sex and what's the word I want to look for? Physical connection is such a
Mhm.
vital part. whether it's in a relationship or just to yourself, understanding the body and moving from there. So it's actually comes as a shock to me that's not part of the program when you are going through a therapy course or a coaching program. So
Mhm.
with that being said, let's dive into avid intimacy a little bit more so that we can get some context from you. So walk me through then, who would you say at this point is your ideal customer? And then from there, how is it you help them and how do you support them along that journey?
Mhm. So we work primarily with adults, usually folks that are in relationships. Most of the time, we're working with people that, depending on the presenting concern,
Mm,
and each clinician has a different specialty, so we all kind of see clients at different points in their lives. So, for me personally, for example, I see a lot of people that are at that stage in their relationship where the initial kind of butterfly phase has passed. Maybe they've had a few kids, 20 years down the line, they're looking back at their relationship and they're thinking, this isn't what I thought it would be. I am lonely. I feel disconnected. I miss you, but I don't know how to reach you.
yeah.
I want to feel close to you emotionally and physically, but I can't break through these barriers and I don't know how to. That's when people often come in and say, hey, we need help.
Yeah. And what would you say is that first initial spark or situation you have to kind of help them overcome? What's that initial thing that draws them to your practice?
It's different for everyone.
Okay.
But there's usually an external kind of life event that happens that uh, kind of shakes people out of the day to day.
Okay.
It's really easy for folks to kind of get caught in, we're going to work, we're doing our chores, we're taking care of what we need to, we're in our routine. People can spend years kind of brushing things under the rug because you still have to function in this world. Say you
Yeah.
have a high stress job or you're taking care of kids, it's really easy for that to become the focus. And oftentimes something happens when they need each other and it becomes very clear that they can't reach each other or that they've
Yeah.
actually checked out. One or both partners has maybe checked out years ago sometimes because they felt disconnected and lonely for a long time. And then
Mm,
when they really need each other, they're not there. And that's scary. That's terrifying for people.
yeah.
And that's often when they come in. We wish more people would come in earlier. And we're starting to see more of that, where people are starting to say, hey, let's come in and set ourselves up for success. Let's come in at the start of things feeling a little bit difficult. We love that. That is actually what we hope for. But more often than not, people come in when things just become too much. And it's kind of a really a big push towards getting back where they
Yeah.
need to be.
Yeah. So in a sense, the glass has already been broken. So we have to piece the puzzles back together rather than it would be ideal if we did it when that initial energy shift kind of occurred
Mhm.
and was noticed within the relationship. And do you work with the couples both together, or is it kind of we're going to work with the one party and then the other and then come together afterwards? What does that side of it look like?
So we typically start with a 4 session intake where initially we meet with the couple. We also work with folks in non-monogamous relationships. So we might be working with polycules. So it's not always two people. But
Okay.
regardless, our first session would be with the relationship unit, whatever that looks like. Then we would meet individually with each person in the relationship. Then we would all come together again for a goal setting session. That gives us a chance to talk about what's happening in the relationship, the dynamics, a chance for each person individually to maybe go to some of those more difficult places that they're not quite ready to bring in. And then we'll talk about how we're going to bring that all together and set the goals for the treatment. From that point onwards, unless there is a very specific reason, we're constantly working within the relationship unit because we operate from a belief that it's about the dynamic. It's never
Mm,
about one person. It's about what's happening and what's being co-created
yeah.
through what each person is bringing in. And to work through that, each person has to be active in their role in the process, which
Yeah.
is why we tend to not separate.
Amazing. So it's really like a teamwork bond, as you say. Everyone has to play their part, but also be communicating the whole way through with it as well, and just know that the process is coming through. And then,
Mhm.
Alina, I am curious to find out how you go about acquiring your customers. So, with obviously being quite a sensitive subject, and outreach online might be kind of limited. So, what are you doing, and what channels are you finding most effective, and really finding the right people to work with?
Mhm. So what we've learned, well, there are a few things, some of which, quite frankly, we got lucky in that sex therapy is having a moment. 7 years ago, people didn't know sex therapy was a thing. But since then, there have been some shows that have come out that are really popular. It's becoming talked about. It's becoming more mainstream. So people are now seeking this out. We actually haven't needed to use any sort of paid advertising yet. We have Google search. And because we are one of the few practices in Chicago that specialize in relationship and sex therapy,
Yeah.
we tend to show up higher. So I would say a big percentage of our customers come through Google search. The rest, and I would say that's probably the majority, come through referrals. Other therapists who know they don't have the training in sex will send them our way. Physicians, OB-GYNs, urologists, where they're working with the biological end of things, but they know there's a psychological component to the challenges, will send patients our way. And then word of mouth from previous clients. So by and large, we have really sustain the practice through the relationships that we've built with other therapists and other providers.
That's amazing. That really shows obviously the success that the clients are getting as well. So great report on your side of things and just making sure that the goals are achieved moving forward. And then,
Mhm.
so with that being said as well, like what does the team look like behind you? So you mentioned there obviously we have other coaches on board now and it's really scaled to another level. So with that being said, do you have people helping with the marketing aspects and maybe the sales side of things as well? Or do you kind of cover all that yourself as the founder?
I don't anymore. We've,
Okay.
I think, grown past that point. And that was definitely a moment where I handed off the reins to other people. So I got to do my work on control
I
issues.
love that.
Um, but it's kind of a proud and scary moment when you
It
say, okay, I
is.
actually am not going to be doing everything myself anymore. But there are a couple things because a few things are shifting in the industry as a whole that is really requiring us to change our approach. So thus far, we have been very lucky in that we haven't needed paid advertising. We didn't really focus much on doing that because we haven't needed to. However, I am well aware that alongside sex therapy being mainstream or becoming more mainstream is that a lot more people are pursuing it. So I know the luxury of being one of the few in the city is going to go away probably in the next 5 minutes before we wrap up this call. So in
It's actually already
preparation,
gone.
yeah, it happened. That ship has sailed. So we are seeing that this advantage that we've had is going to go away.
Yeah,
And so in preparation for that, we have recently hired an external company to take over our social media and to start
nice.
making that a more present part of our advertising. We do have team members who will do outreach in their communities. Like I said, everyone kind of has their specialty and a very different community that they work with.
Mhm.
So they'll do outreach in those communities, whether it's offering up workshops or networking events. We also have team members that will write blog posts and share ideas for social media. So it very much is a collaborative effort.
Nice.
And we're entering into the trial and error phase of this kind of new era of marketing for the practice.
Yeah. So taking that next step, and as you say, like handing over the reins sometimes is very scary. It's like putting your newborn baby into childcare before you're ready, you know? It's like when are we going to get this control back? When can I take over again? But amazing. So there's steps being made to obviously keep in front of the wave because as you say, it's just staying on top of it. You know, you're lucky that you got this far and then it's not luck, it's skill. And then we're going to take that to the next level as well, you know? So amazing to see that coming through. And then with that being said, what are your plans for the next like 6 to 12 months? Do you have a specific goal that you're looking to achieve, or even a milestone coming up that you're really excited about?
Yes, yes. So, one of the things that we are really focused on for the next year is in bringing novel ways to do therapy to our clients. And by that, by and large, therapy in general, but including relationship and sex therapy, has been about weekly or bi-weekly uh, virtual or in-person sessions, sometimes for a very long period of time, sometimes not, but still, it's a weekly commitment,
Yeah,
which is very powerful. And sometimes that is exactly what people need. But we're also realizing that there are a lot of ways to do this work. And so we're launching groups, we're launching
sure.
intensives. You have folks out there that maybe they don't necessarily want to commit to 6 months of therapy, but they would like to spend 2 or 3 days focusing on a very specific aspect of their relationship. So
Yeah,
we recently launched an intensive for folks that are looking to open up their relationship. And it's a 2-day intensive where we specifically focus on helping them build those tools. We recently launched a pelvic pain group because, again, for some people, it's about community and being able to feel seen and heard by others that are having the same experience. And that might be more impactful than a one-on-one session with a therapist. We're also developing courses that people can do on their own in preparation for or in between therapy, speaking to the clients that, maybe you're a couple that just had a kid, you have a toddler. Chances are your sex life is horrible. Statistically, your sex life is horrible in that moment. Your marriage is probably at an all-time low when it comes to satisfaction. We know this to be true because it's a high-stress time period. And so you want to take these sleep-deprived, stressed out, struggling people and say, hey, you need to set aside a day a week to go into therapy and find a babysitter for your kid so you can work on this. That's hard. That's not sustainable for a lot of people. So we're trying to find ways where folks can still engage in the work in a way that fits into their life a little bit more until the time is ready for them to be able to commit to regular sessions. So that's a big shift we're making, that the way that people can do the work can be varied, that it doesn't have to just be one-on-one sessions, and that healing and growth can happen in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I love that. And it's very tailored to everybody's needs as well, because it is a very deep work. It's very emotional, it's very
Mhm.
personal. So even for people that are not ready to really take that step for the one-to-one coaching, it's nice for them to get a soft approach into that ecosystem and see what it is like if the process is for them. And when they're ready for therapy, they're obviously testing things out and making sure that they're on the right path as well. And where are you finding
Absolutely.
like the biggest challenge for yourself in taking that next step, setting up the programs and just moving forward?
So I would say that there are 3 challenges that we're working through. One is that in the industry, there is kind of this proliferation of fast and easy versions of mental health, whether it's online, $40 a month, you have access to any therapist you want via chat, whether it's chat GPT AI, people are starting to go to AI for relationship support. TikTok therapy, that's a thing
Yeah.
where sometimes highly unqualified people are providing mental health support in bite-sized format. And so there is a kind of societal push towards quick and easy. And it's creating this notion for folks that I should have read the, you know, 10-step checklist to bringing your marriage back, and that should have worked because that person on the internet told me it would. And so there's kind of these expectations around speed that is not conducive to how we actually do the work. And so
100.
part of it is working with folks to really understand that intimacy requires intentionality and commitment and depth work and going to difficult and uncomfortable places and staying and being willing
Mm,
to work through it as opposed to kind of wanting to quick fix it away.
yeah.
So there is a challenge there in that the work is a commitment. Whether it's a course or a workshop or sessions or a group, you are still committing to showing up in a world that is telling you, oh, now you can do this real quick.
Yeah. And yeah, it's the state of the modern world. It's happening obviously in the fitness industry as well. A lot of fad. It's just, it's not. It's about sustainable health, sustainable mental wellness as well, and just making sure everyone has their own timeline as well, their own path. It takes longer to
Right.
heal certain trauma compared to others. So
Absolutely.
stick to your guns and keep going. And Lena, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out to work with you and just connect with you if they want to do so?
Really. So we are on Instagram, and the hashtag is Avid Intimacy. But more information on our practice, as well as details on how to book sessions and clinician bios, are on our website, which is www.avidintimacy.com.
Beautiful. And thank you again for joining us. And to our
My
listeners,
pleasure.
if you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to go and check out Lena and all the amazing work that she's doing. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, Visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from $0 to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing, and we will see you on the next one.